Hello, and today on Mike Mondaily, we have Luke, who's going to coach me. I'm getting schooled on my Zentor project, and just to catch everyone. Hi, Luke. How you doing?
I am great. How are you, Mike?
I'm great. Like, have you been getting on since the last time I saw you?
Oh man, a lot has happened. A lot has happened.
In the last
I'm not
15
even
minutes.
saying-
Yes, we were just over on the Make Music Your Life channel talking about various different things. So, and I'm sure that the majority of people who are currently watching this were also there too. So, so just to catch everyone up, I am playing music as daily as possible, live streaming it, and roughly an hour. We can talk about the length, but roughly an hour's worth of music as close to every day as I can. It's like doing a performance, and I'm wanting to make sort of the goal of this is to be able to make an album which is as good as any other album out there in every way. And I know this is an impossible goal in the time it takes to play it. So I don't set any, I mean, I don't work anything out before I do these performances at all. Occasionally I might actually just set a few of the sequences in the subharmonicon, but I'm actually starting to do that less now. It's whatever is there. Yeah. So there's no working out. I don't work out any melodies. I don't do it. It's like literally, I just start. One thing that is worked out is the setup, obviously, which includes, so everything is live. Absolutely everything is live. There's no DAW involved, but there are VSTs involved. So what I'm playing is a VST, and the effects are VSTs as well. And obviously the kind of processing on the sound is are VSTs as well. And what I'm doing, what this is I'm going to be doing a weekly review, which I was going to do on my own, but then I thought, hey, it'd be great if Luke could just coach me. Because Luke's an absolutely fantastic coach. I know, because I trained him myself. And but Luke really has taken to coaching in, it's like a fish to water. He's in some ways much better at it than I am. In fact, you know, if you were talking to an actual coach, he'd probably say in almost every way he's better than I am. But anyway, the only thing that maybe I have over Luke is just experience. So I can't think of a better person, as he's a musician as well, and I highly respect him as a musician. Can't think of a better person to help me do this. So instead of me just expounding and talking my socks off, Luke is going to coach me through creating, because each week I'm doing these performances, and then there's going to be a review, design a new experiment session. We're going to decide that, and then the following performances will be me doing the creator part of that, where I'm actually doing the experiment, essentially. And this is going to be a weekly thing. We haven't quite determined the day exactly just yet, but we will do that. So essentially, this is going to be an ongoing story of the musical development of Zentor, which I think will be interesting. So I'm going to shut up now. And I'm gonna pass over to Luke, just because we haven't really talked about this. Start with review, and then we'll move on. Okay.
Yeah. So what happened last week?
Right. So the last time I did a kind of catch up, I decided to lower the bar because the things that I was having to do, there was too many of them. So I was having to, there was all kinds of, in fact, I'll open up I will actually show people. Let's move to this and this. Okay, so this is Gigaperformer, and I don't actually use any of these things here. Hang on. Let's move over to this. So this is the back end of Gigaperformer. So these are the three Moogs. And by the way, there's no other sequenced sound coming from anything other than Moogs in my stuff. It's literally 3 Moogs and me playing stuff. There's nothing else. No other percussion, no other nothing. Yeah, that's almost like a little limiting rule I've got for myself. Oh, hello, MR, and hello, Robin. So essentially, these are the 3 Moogs coming in here. Yeah. And at first I did it. I mean, so I've put these, it's like tape and compressors and stuff on there. But essentially I didn't have any way other than twiddling the knobs of the Moogs of making the Moog sound in a different space, if you like, and do different things. So I decided to use these plugins. In fact, not that one first. So I decided to use Tornado to put the Moogs through, because then I can, hello Zabox, so I can automate, well not automate, but just, perform the plugins. And I had Tornadoes on all 3 Moogs, the Mother 32, the Subharmonicon, and the DFAM. But what I found was, it was just, well, there was that, and also I had the hardware looper as well, the 505, the Boss roll-in, same thing. The 505 hardware looper. So I had the looper, I had the 3 of those plugins, and I was playing, and I was doing the Moogs, and I was trying to get the sound, the levels right, and all of the 5,000 million other things, and answer people in the comments as it was playing, and make sure that it's okay. And I mean, it was just. And so what ended up happening before last week was that it was just a complete. Well, it wasn't a mess. It was fine. I was happy to release some of it because I'm releasing one of these albums a week, and but it was just. It felt random. It felt I was out of control. It was a bit boring for me to do because it was too hard. Yeah, and the stretch part is it's a very thin slice. Yeah, so I'd increase the number of options beyond my ability to deliver, and the quality was suffering slightly as a result. I mean, I think it was better than it was before, but it was still, there was something not right about it. So what I did was I replaced one of the Tornadoes with this on the DFAM, where it's essentially, you're not so much performing the effects, you set them up beforehand and then it plays them, and I can either have it on or off. Yeah, so I've got one of these controllers. Which one is it? This, I think, should work. There you go. Can you see that moving there? So it goes from dry to wet there. And I've also got a keyboard, a block, so you can't see it, it's on my desk. But anyway, I've got a block, one of these. Hilariously, I'm just using it as a button. A very expensive button. So it can change. Hang on, it's not on. Yeah. So anyway, it can change the different ones I've got here. Yeah. So that already reduces the number of options. The other thing I did was I removed the looper completely. Because what I found the looper was doing was I have to learn. It's almost like I have to practice the looper in order to get good at it. And it was an additional thing, and it was going wrong too often and distracting me from the other stuff. And also, it was taking my focus off actually playing. Like one of the things that Zentor is, and we're going to get onto the unique style shortly. But one of the things that Zentor is that it is about kind of the playing aspect, not noodling, which is something we can come to, but it's about the live playing aspect. And obviously, and I'm going to bring the looper back in eventually, but just not just yet. So what ended up happening was I ended up lowering the bar, and as a result, there was an immediate jump in, reduced a lot of options. The other thing I decided to do, I decided not to change tempo. I literally made a list of all of the things that I had to make decisions on, and I decided which ones to cross out. Yeah. So I'm not changing the tempo, so I'm setting it up at the start. Yeah, and I'm not changing the tempo. I've removed a lot of the plugins. There are other effects plugins that I've removed as well. I'm not using the hardware looper right now, but I will do at some point in the future. The other thing I didn't do in the last week was I only used my string and my piano sound. Didn't use any other sounds in there, that I'm playing. So I'm not shifting between sounds. And as a result of all of that, the other thing that I'm doing is I'm not specifically trying to change key, which is what I was doing before. I mean, if it does end up changing key because of what the subharmonicon does, it's fine. But I'm not like doing it on purpose, right? So yeah, so I'm not kind of destroying it. And what ended up happening was that the quality shot up, and I had an absolute whale of a time. I was back to like, oh God, this is great, right? Okay. However, and what so that's kind of the review. It was like a massive tick success in that sense. And what happened was I made a particular live stream that I think MR was on. Hey, Live Society and Rob. And then I did a performance, when was it? 3 days ago. And I think MR was on it. I'm not sure. Where it was this one. Let me get rid of these. It was called LFSR, which it's a long way to go, and there's a lot that needs to be sorted still, obviously. But I was listening to it yesterday as I was mastering it to put it up. I haven't yet put it up, but I will put it up this week. I was mastering it yesterday, and I was listening to it, and I was like, this is getting there, right? I'm actually feel like I'm getting somewhere. And what I want to focus on this week for the experiment, because I think if last week's experiment was about where's that fine line between too difficult and too easy? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that also creates a result which is kind of interesting and doing the contrast, that needs to be created. If that's what last week was about, this week really what I want to focus on is what we were talking about on the Make Music, on Momentum Mondays, Make Music Alive, with the Daft Punk thing, which is what are the elements that make Zentor, and how can I make sure to, what experiments can I set up to sort of be pushing forward in this? Because there is a danger I've noticed in my music that the Zentor music is that, yes, it does sound like Zentor if you know what Zentor is, but it can sound a bit like other stuff as well. So it's almost like it has the oral hooks, but sometimes it's not separated enough, in a sense.
It's not separated enough?
Yeah, it's almost like, so Daft Punk, for instance, they managed to create a constellation of elements that it's just instantly recognizable as Daft Punk, right? And I'm not there yet.
Got it.
I mean, I don't know whether you'd agree with that or not, but I don't feel that I'm there yet. Essentially, I mean, I'm nowhere near. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, and I never will be. But you know what I mean. Yeah.
How would you describe your unique elements at the moment?
So how I would describe the elements, because remember, the elements themselves don't need to be unique. It's the combination of them that needs to be unique.
Right.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your elements that
which make it? Yeah, exactly. So, all right, is this working? Piano with loads of reverb. So insane amounts of reverb. Yeah. This at the same time sometimes. Doing this kind of thing. Sorry, no, not that. That little whoa is very, very what I do all the time. So those two things are extremely what I'm doing. Now, they're not unique on their own, obviously. I think the fact that I'm using the three Moogs and nothing else. So the way that the subharmonicon works, the way that the DFAM sounds, but I think something that does make it like more unique than not is the fact that I'm not using any other drum sounds other than defam or bass. In fact, occasionally I will turn the mother 32 into the bass, but at the moment, as I think it was JC pointed out, at the moment the mother 32 is basically a really expensive hat. So yeah. But I do occasionally use it as a bass. But really, the fact that there's no other type of rhythm other than the defam. Another thing is so not just talking about the elements, the parts and the sounds, but the kind of harmony. So the kind of harmonies that I'm playing. So this is something that I do all the time, like major keys. I do a lot of major keys. Yeah, which isn't usual in electronic music for some reason, right? That chord progression is everywhere.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. That's the Mike Monday.
I mean, it's kind of hackneyed and everything else. Yeah, but that's ever. I do it all the time. Also, very very simple chord progressions, like just the. Yeah. Then also the sort of in a structural way, the fact that it's an hour long, or there are long things, and the pieces of music, the individual tracks, are sort of appear out of the previous piece of music. Yeah, so
Right.
so it's almost like there are things that flow through it, but it sounds different. It's like it sounds like a different tune, but it's actually the same tune. See if I can find an example here in this thing that I did. So it goes from. Sorry, that's probably a bit loud, isn't it? Let me just turn that down a bit here. Oh, that's right. I know what I need to do. I'll turn it back up again. I forgot to turn it down again. There we go. Right, that should be better. Okay. So that's all the floaty stuff. There you go. There's that chord progression again. Yeah. And then that same rhythm, really. So we've got the huge contrasts going on. And then it's the same rhythm, but just with less string on it. Yeah.
Right.
And then we go all acid. So in a sense, this is all the same tune, but it's different. They're all different. So that's another element, if you like. And the final one that I wanted to talk about, which is a question in my mind, is the tempo. So I think this is going at about 70 or 60. Yeah, I tend to gravitate to around 65 to 70. And I do have a question in my mind whether if that's holding back how popular it might be. But when I listen to this, there's just something about that, like, it's just so, I don't know, it just gets me.
Well, it's really, I mean, if it's like 65 or 60, I mean, that's kind of like, that's like 120 basically.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. I mean, that's something that, so there is a half time thing that I could start to do at that tempo, but that, it's just, there's something about that pulse that is so fundamental that, but, for instance, I would never, when I was DJing, and this was one of the problems with DJing in clubs, I wouldn't have been able to play that. Right. And this is one of the great things about not DJing and just doing it just doing it myself. But, if I just chose to double tempo it all the time, it would be interesting to know what effect that would have on, engagement. I don't know. Yeah. Who knows? But anyway, so those are the elements. That was a very long answer to a very short question, but.
So what are you thinking is your biggest opportunity or obstacle right now with the Zentar music?
So it's kind of both. I mean, it's the same thing. An opportunity and obstacle are the same thing, but now that one of the problems that I've not exactly solved, but one of the problems I've made headway on, which we spoke about in the coaching call we did on the Momentum Monday show, which is about the contrast, is I know what to do there now. I mean, the difference between this and that's highly contrasting. Yeah. So it's not like I've solved it because I can always get better at it, but I know how to do that now. But remember, every problem creates another problem. Every solution creates another problem. Yeah. So the problem I have now is that now I can do this kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. Let me ask you, Luke. Does that sound different to the other Zentor stuff that you've heard?
I think so. It sounds a little more hard, right? Like more of a.
Yeah, it's harder, isn't it? It's less. Yeah, like that. It's less. It's more grindy. If you like. And there's a certain weirdness that I do like. Mike Monday was known for instance, which isn't in the Zentor music. So I can find it. Yeah, this bit. No, I think it's back here. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a bit. This bit, yeah. I mean, Mike Monday could have written that. This bit, I mean, this is straight out of the Mike Monday playbook.
Right.
Yeah. So the question, it's almost like the obstacle or the question or the thing that I'm not sure about is that Zentor? Or, I mean, obviously it is, but what I mean is, does it want to be? And if so, how do I make it sound like it is? I mean, it already does sound like it is. What I mean is, what are when I say hooks, I don't mean melodies. I mean the oral signposts, if you like, that will make people go, even in those situations when it's sounding like that and not like that. Because I do actually like the contrast between that kind of weird, kind of rough, groovy thing with the very floaty thing. I think it's a nice contrast. But what aural signposts can I create in the weird groovy sections which define it as being Zentor? And furthermore, with the floaty ones, you know, the type sections, are they too generic? That's the second question that I have in my head. Is there something I can do that would reinterpret that kind of thing?
Okay. So the first question is, what kind of aural like audio signpost could you have in the harder sections that define it as Zentar?
Mm-hmm.
And the second question is, on the parts that get more floaty, does it sound too generic?
Yeah.
So how could you solve both of those problems with one solution?
Oh, that's a good question. How could I solve both of those problems with one solution?
I don't know that you can. It's a question.
Oh, I know, of course. That's why I like it. How could I solve both of those problems? Let's just come up with some options. So you could have some kind of a defining instrument running through both, some kind of defining sound that actually is present in both, which also, so that would kind of provide a thread through. I mean, there kind of is that already, and that there's, you know, the DFAM and the subharmonicon often, but you can make them sound quite different. So it's almost like maybe there wants to be another instrument, because like the string sometimes, the Vangelis string sometimes goes in the weird section just as a kind of build-up thing. But I tried, in fact, in this one, I tried to put in the piano in one of the darker sections. It just sounded a bit weird. I suppose maybe it's because I had some... Oh, actually, there's another option. So what I could do is think of a different way of playing the piano and affecting the piano that might make it harder. Because the piano doesn't have to be like floaty, does it?
A bassy piano is pretty hard.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start writing some of this stuff down. Hang on, where's my thing? Oh God, just got a free write here about intangible versus tangible value. That's not what we want. Hang on. There we go. All right. So, I know that's dreams. I'm just finding my different notebooks. 21. Where are we? Music. Sometimes I wonder if having just the same notebook for everything would be easier. I'm never sure. Music making. There we go. All right. So what did I say, Luke? What was it? It was have options. Oh God.
One, it could play the piano differently, and the other one, you could have a singular sound running through both types of sections.
Okay. So I'm just going through pages here. Whenever I finish a live stream performance, oh, and by the way, I'm doing one after this in half an hour from now on this channel. So if you want to watch that, then you can. So have an instrument running through both. So really, I've got two states, if you like, of being. One is sort of childlike and floaty and, I don't know, either melancholy or happy or triumphant, you know, that kind of thing. And the other one is sort of grindy, weird and acidic. Yeah, and I could change how I'm playing the piano and how it sounds in the weird bits. Okay. Any other? That second one wouldn't solve the second problem, which is do the floaty bits sound too generic?
What about the floaty bits makes you think they sound generic?
I don't know whether they do or not. It's just something.
What about them makes you question whether they might?
Well, because the kind of, I mean, the chord progressions that I've chosen and that I use, mainly because I'm not that good at the piano, are they are generic. I mean, it's almost like, I mean, they are pro level chords, no doubt. They may be described as Einstein level chords, but it's almost like I play them in their most simple form. And so maybe that question is more of a kind of just an imposter syndrome belief thing than it is truth. And like one of the things I mean, because at the moment, I mean, I'm taking piano lessons, and we're working on my improvisation and stuff like that. Really, I mean, I'm never going to be him, never in a million years. I mean, it's just like would never. But it's almost like the model piano player that I'm kind of the person who I'm aspiring, never in my wildest dreams, is Keith Jarrett. It's almost like that, like he, particularly in that concert, the Colin concert, because he does all kinds of stuff, but in the Colin concert is the way how he plays on that. I mean, like literally genius level. He's got amazing chops. Technique is unbelievable. So I'm not in any way saying I'm going to be anything like that. But it's when he does that kind of thing, that's kind of what I'm going for. But the reason that it's almost like Keith Jarrett can get away with it is because of how amazing, technically brilliant he is. Maybe not because, it's just also the musically brilliant he is. And I think maybe I sometimes wonder whether the simplicity makes it too generic. In this case, I don't know. I'm not sure. So that's what's causing me to question it, I think, is just the sheer simplicity of what I'm doing.
What other artists are using synthesizers and playing simple piano chords over the top?
Sorry, say that again.
What are there other artists using Moog synthesizers and playing simple piano chords over the top?
I don't know, probably. I mean, I think John Hopkins is a good example of somebody. I mean, I don't think he only uses Moog synthesizers, but he basically uses synthesizers with simple piano chords over the top. Sorry, John Hopkins, it's much more than that, but basically, if you wanted to explain John Hopkins in a sentence, that may well come close.
Do you think that, so what is your definition of generic?
It could be anything within that genre, I guess.
Wait, what could be anything?
The thing that you're calling generic.
So what about your music aligns with that definition?
It could, and I just want to be clear, I'm not saying that my music is as good as John Hopkins' music, right? Because how he makes the simplicity okay is with his, extreme attention to amazing production stuff. Yeah, he's a designer. Yeah, he kind of designs it and, spends, tortures himself, it seems, from the way he talks about it, to sort of create these incredible soundscapes, but I can't do that because I've chosen not to with the way that I'm doing it. But it's like what makes me wonder whether it is too generic is the fact that these chords are the kind of things that I'm playing are everywhere all the time and have been forever. Maybe that's a good thing. I mean, maybe in talking through this, but it's almost like what I guess what I mean is, am I just not bringing something to the table? It feel that there's an element of me not worrying, but wanting to bring something to the table, like contribute to these chords. Here you go, chords. Here's something for you, something different. Yeah, and at the moment it feels like I might not be doing that.
What could you contribute to the chords?
That's the question.
Well, what could you? What's the first easiest option you could try?
Right. So if I go to my musical history, right, because that's like whenever I'm like, well, what could I contribute? Well, where do you go? You go to something that's relevant to you, because why not? Yeah. And if I think about the piano, I've played more Mozart than anything else. Yeah. And you wouldn't hear Mozart going. I mean, you kind of would, but you kind of wouldn't. Sixths weren't really a big thing back in the day. In Mozart, well, certainly six in the bass. Anyway. So, and actually, it's funny. Maybe that's one of the things I've never thought about this, but that's maybe one of the things that appeals to me about Keith Jarrett, because some of what when he does his like embellishments, they do kind of sound like some of Mozart's, things like that. The thing is, at this point, I can't do that. I don't have the technical ability to do it. And by the way, Blue says, sure, you can't be someone else, but you could still get to that level. I agree. I could theoretically get to that level, but the point being, I mean, I also believe that anybody could if they practiced enough, but I'm choosing that would require an intense amount of practice. Now, probably, I mean, Keith Jarrett is literally, you wouldn't believe how good he is at the piano. It's almost like you don't know how he does it type level good. How is it physically possible that he does some of these things? That's how good he is, right? Technically speaking. And it would require that I probably practice in a certain way, a certain number of hours every single day for the rest of my life, and I still might not achieve it. So while I could, it's like I choose not to, because I know what is required in order to do it. And I'm not sure I want to do that either, because is that actually going to do the thing that I want to do? Is that the purpose of what I'm doing, to become a great technical, specifically piano player? No. The piano playing for me isn't the end result. It's a means to an end. So coming back to, and this is relevant to what I was about to say. So I'm at this point, I mean, I can practice over time, but at this point, I'm not going to be able to. I'm not like, because you've got to bear in mind, I'm doing this live, and there is an element of fear, and you kind of hold back a bit from what you can do when the camera's not recording, and that's kind of part of what I'm training myself in. But I mean, I'm coming back to the old thing that I've talked about a lot for anyone who's done any of my courses, which is the Alberti bass. I've stopped doing that for some reason.
What do you think is the reason you stopped doing
Because I'm scared of getting it wrong. I mean, it's not that hard. Let's face it. It's not that hard. Hang on a minute. Where's the one? Yeah,
How? So one thing I am noticing, the whole philosophy of the Zentar is, who's the best chess player? A man and a machine. Well, who would the best piano player be? Probably a man and a machine. I don't know how you would incorporate that, but I do feel like maybe there's something.
Go on.
You haven't. It does feel like there's something you haven't considered with because like you said, like you're not trying to get to Keith Jarrett level, but you're not trying to get your music to the best man-made music ever. You're trying to get it the mixture of machine and human.
Brilliant.
So have you considered how you might incorporate that thinking into the actual piano playing itself?
Awesome. This is why I got you to do this, Luke. Well done. Right. So that's absolutely brilliant. Okay. I haven't considered that before. Right. There you go. We've got the big.
Like 5 minutes, and I was like, I need to just say it because I don't know how I'm gonna get him there.
This is great. Yeah. So that is in fact, you are allowed to offer suggestions. You don't have to be non-directive, right? So that's the thing. Now, funnily enough, the thing that I've removed for now, it's down on the floor. there. You can see it. There's the looper down on the floor over there. Sorry, I'm not going to tread on it. I think it's underneath the camera. Yeah. But that thing that I've removed is one way of doing that, but I don't want to incorporate it yet again. That's one solution to the how do I incorporate the whole ethos of the whole thing, which is the best piano player would be a machine and a human. How would I do that without a looper? I think that might be something I have to go away and think about.
Yeah, I feel like that might be your question for the next year.
Yeah, I know. I mean, at the very least, a walk on the beach. That it's going to require. I'm not sure I could do it right here in 2 minutes, because it's going to involve metaphor. It's going to involve zooming out. It's going to involve breaking down the elements of the ethos. So, what does that actually mean? What's the purpose of it? What? Because there's something algorithmic about it. There's something about setting up conditions. There's something about setting up the conditions and letting things happen. Yeah. And there's also something about automation as well. So, but it's going to take a good long beach walk to start to figure that one out. But that's a brilliant question. And to the folks who are watching or listening, you could see how much more excited I got about a good question than I did about anything else. And why I did the ting for a good question, because a good question is the doorway into so much. It's so much better than a solution, because a solution is one of many. Yeah. Whereas a question is a good one. It's the best, it's like the best question you could be asking right now. And I do think, while I probably won't be able to set up an experiment this week, which would start to answer that question, because it's opened a doorway in my brain, which I haven't gone through yet. So while I won't be able to set that up for the experiment this week, it is something that I'm gonna think about a lot. You've got me all excited, Luke. So that's absolutely fantastic. So yes, so what I do need to do before we stop this, and I've got 15 minutes before the actual performance, and I'm not going to be able to set up the experiment, this week's experiment for this next performance. I'm just going to use the old experiment. Yeah. So bear that in mind. And by the way, the link's in the description if you're curious. So I need to set up an experiment for this week. So you need to ask me questions to get me to do that.
Okay. How could you set up an experiment that will get you 1% closer to that? Or do you not want to think about this at all?
The machine and human thing, let's just put that to one side. I'm going to have to, I think it's too interesting a question to not have at least one beach walk about before I do anything. Yeah, it's almost like I want to, because we started this with a unique style thing. Yeah, so I think if we can set up an experiment for the unique style. So the questions were, the problem was that I was worried that worried is the wrong word. I was thinking that maybe the floaty sections are too generic, and that the weird sections were not too weird, but too different. It didn't sound like Zentor. Now, obviously, what Zentor sounds like is how I choose it to sound like. What I choose it to sound like. But is there an experiment I can set up which kind of creates a common thread through it, but also makes it sound more unique? Because if let's just pretend that there's a thing that I can have in there that runs through both things. So that's the first thing. It runs through both things, so it connects them. Number two, it reinterprets both things. So maybe, this is the impossible question that I'm asking now. So it reinterprets both things, and it provides a thread through them, yeah, and it's really good. So that's quite a tall order.
How could you do that?
Going to the we talked about this a few weeks ago, actually, Luke. This was one of these conversations we didn't record. So you know the what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. Cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a not contact. What's it called? Yeah, it's contact. Contact instrument. That has some element. When I say elements, it has some features. The way that it works, it's very, very Zental. The way that it sounds, what it is, it's all about discovery, right? It's a very particular thing. If I could find a way to incorporate that, then that feels like it could work over both, and it would do both. Now, the problem I had with it was that it takes a lot of juice, right? It's a lot of processing power, and the other thing was that it also, it's like Dory, so it needs a what's the word? A trigger to be playing. Yeah, it doesn't have its own a sequencer, if you like. I mean, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. You have to actually push a note in order for it to be for it to sequence. Maybe there's a latch that you could use. But I did do a bit of playing around with it. But the other problem was latency. So there was lots of these, there was a previous video, if you look it up on the Mike Mon Daily channel, called Rabbit Holes, like how to avoid them. I could see with this one that it was a musical solution that was creating a technical rabbit hole that, if I wasn't careful, was going to turn into a mental rabbit hole, and it could just be like, 1 month later and there's been no live streams. So that was the reason I rejected that at that point. But it is something that I would like to get sorted at some point in the future. Thinking about it now, I'm not sure that is the solution right now. That's not an experiment that I can run right now, because I've got to actually run the experiments this week. So that's probably something I want to put to one side as something to kind of figure out in the non-existent free time I have.
Could you run it into the looper and just have the 4 loops before the cycles and then?
Yeah, that was the other thing that I was thinking of doing. But again, I really do want to leave the looper out of it for now, because it's too much. It's not iterative enough. It's not like one step forward.
Could you try just doing the piano multiple sounds and see what happens with that?
Sorry, piano multiple sounds. What do you mean?
You had talked about having one piano that's harder and one piano that's softer, but then there'd still be a piano throughout. That's probably lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
that's right. Okay, so change piano sound. All right. What I'm going to do, because we have to stop this live stream, because I just need to go and get myself ready. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that is one of the things that I'm going to do this week, starting tomorrow, is that I'm going to focus on, in the weird sections, having a different kind of a piano sound with a different kind of a piano part. And then also what I'm going to do in the interim, before now and tomorrow, is I'm going to do some free writing, and I'm going to figure out some other options. Yeah, because we're running out of time right now. And I'm going to include those in the experiments. But one experiment I'm definitely going to do is changing the piano sound and the piano type of piano part that I play. And then, we'll meet again next week with a report on how it went and what I did.
Beachbox.
Yeah, so it's funny, like things like change piano sound and part in weird sections. I can already feel internally it makes me scared. It's almost, well, not scared, but nervous. Because it's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't know how I'm doing it, and it's not comfortable. But that's a good thing, I think, because it doesn't have to be complicated. It just needs to be slightly different. So,
right.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, Robin, definitely turning off the reverb on the piano. Absolutely. That's one of the things that we'll do. Sure. Okay. So that's it for now. I'm going to go and move a camera or two around and make sure that the music's still working. And I'm going to play what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. Markov something. Markov chain. There you go. Markov chain. That's the name of the thing. So if you want to check out that for a bit, I will be playing for under an hour, I would think, because I have a coaching session to do for someone else at 9:30. So thank you very much, Luke, for this. I hope folks here found it valuable. Think about how you can apply the ways that we're thinking about unique music and identifying elements and ways of doing things, and in order to define your sound, because really it is where all the juice is at, and it's a lot of fun, because you're no longer trying to follow a pre-existing model. You're using pre-existing models to create your own model, and that's really the supreme act of creation, really. You're no longer copying, imitating, you're stealing. So, on that note, onwards and upwards.